Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing great today. So we are going to be finishing up the turning and polishing of the Galactic, Starlight, whatever blank that we made. I can't wait to see how this turns out. I'm gonna have to do some internal sanding. I'm not looking super forward to that, but I tried it not too long ago, if you didn't see that, I'm not sure which stream it was. It was like a few months ago. I decided to try some internal sanding on a pretty transparent blank, and realistically it sounds like more work, of course, sanding, and for anybody that doesn't like sanding, it's not probably top of your list, but it really wasn't that bad. It didn't take that much longer, really, and as long as you got the little tools that you need, and they're very simple, you can make them on your, it's not like you have to go buy something special. You just take a stick, slit it in the end like I think I'm using like a 1/4 inch dowel or something like that. Put a slit in the end, and then you just wrap your sandpaper around it and you're good to go. You just go in there and sand it with the stick and everything's pretty good. I think there's multiple ways of doing that. I wish there was like a simpler way. Like something that worked, and I looked around, I couldn't really find any better way that seemed like more logical to me or easier. But the other thing is, if you don't want to go for full polish, if you're not going for dead see-through, if you are going for that, then you're going to need to spend some time on it and make sure that you get all the scratches out so it doesn't look junky. But if you don't want to go that far, you can still get translucent or pretty much see-through, but like a frosty see-through kind of look by just going up to like 1,000 grit or something like that. Maybe at the most like 2,000, and just try and really get it nice and polished, or like sanded evenly. And then you just get kind of a frosted look and you don't have to do as much work. The nice thing about that, I would say that the totally see-through, like perfect sanding on the inside, that's going to look a little bit more impressive, I think. So, it's worth the time to do that. But the frosted look, really, the nice thing is like, you just got to get it up to like 2,000 grit. That's it. There's no like, oh, there's this one scratch that's in the way. It gives you a lot more leeway to not have it like, you don't have to get it like perfect kind of thing. So it depends on what you're going for. And really, I would even say you can stop on the way up to full gloss. And if you're like, that looks pretty good, then fine. Or you can go all the way up to full polish on the inside, look at it, and kind of compare. And you can always drop back down, to get back down to that kind of frosted look. All you do is sand it some more, so put some scratches in it. So it's not too bad, and I think this one's going to look pretty good, I hope. So let's see here. Who got here first, I wonder? Michael McEwen. Bruce is here too, and Kim's here, Vinny, Darren's in the house, Mark. Let's see here, David's here, nice. Who else? Homer Lex. And Harold, nice. Who else? Anybody else? Jim's here too. Cool. If I missed you, I apologize. But the things kind of all look the same after you're scrolling for a while. So anyway, I'm going to go for the overhead view. I'll show you guys what we did, what we got going on here. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So we got our body and we got our mandrels. I got all the tools and stuff. I basically just put one link to all the bespoke turning tool stuff at Turner's Warehouse. They got everything you need. They got the mandrels. They got the tenon cutter. They got the Neil's niche thing to do the tapping easily. They got your drill bits. They got your taps and dies. I mean, what else is there? They got nibs and ink and I can't think of anything else really off the top of my head. Sandpaper. And then we got our section. That's ready to go. I'm hoping that this thing, I hope there's some glitter on the middle part. That'll be kind of cool on the section. And I got my they got the chuck and the collets at Turner's Warehouse as well. And then we got our cap. So looking pretty good. Now the cap, I think, is usually the one that really requires a good bit of sanding. If you want to, you're gonna see through the cap probably the most. I think the body generally tends to stay a little bit more like translucent instead. I think it ends up thicker. And then your section, really, I don't know, the section on the inside doesn't really matter. And frankly, you don't really want to be sanding the inside of this too much. I think if you wanted to sand it, probably, I haven't really thought about this too much, but I would imagine that before you put the threads for the nib in, you would want to sand that. That's how you would do that. So I'm not going to mess with it, because if you go in there and sand it now, you're going to mess up your nib threads. So just really not that worth it, I don't think. You could maybe get a little bit, because if you look at, you know, your nib or whatever, the threads are really going to be at the back end of your section grip. So you could technically go in and sand a little bit on the front. Whatever. I don't know. If you missed it on, you know, before you put the threads in, I don't really think it's worth messing with. And we'll have to see what it looks like. If I think it really requires anything, you know, maybe I'll go in there. But so we got all our parts. Oh, I got a couple of announcements. You might see my little Post-it note next to me. So next week, no live stream. I'm going to Colorado, and we're going to catch a Rockies game. So it'll be kind of cool. One of the things that Gretchen and I want to do, I guess before we die or sometime, we want to go to all the different baseball stadiums and see games there. It would be better if we could see the Dodgers play there, but we didn't work out with the travel plans. So we're going to go watch the Rockies and the Twins, I think it is. Most likely we're going to see the Rockies get beat, but because they're terrible. But it'll be fun. I got a buddy. Probably I would actually, my oldest friend lives in Boulder, so we're going to go hang out with him, and I got another buddy from high school that actually we're all going up, and it's going to be kind of a fun little trip. So no stream next week. We'll resume operations the week after. I ran out of the Lions blanks, so I had a sale last week on my, so as you guys know, I'm trying to get rid of the square blanks that are my team color blanks, and I'm replacing my, you know, we've talked endlessly about pigments and what I'm doing here, but so we got some new Lions blanks. One thing that I'm really excited about these, I want to turn one of these and just kind of see how it looks before I totally go into it. This may not be the final rendition, but I was able to get a metallic look to the silver. So that's going to be kind of an upgrade on the new Lions blanks. They're not available on my website yet. I haven't switched them out. Like I said, I've already turned samples of this stuff, but I kind of changed the metallic look, like kind of recipe thing. So I want to just turn one, make sure that that's what I want, that everything's looking good, and then I will get the new Lions blanks up on the website. So we're going to have 2 blanks that have been converted to the round vertical in the team color arena. We got a Dodgers blank. That one's new, and the thing is about the pigments, compared to how I was doing the dyes and all that stuff, and the resin that I was using before, the beauty is, and you guys know, I have a lot of control over my colors now, and frankly, a lot of these colors are going to be more kind of matched a little bit better. Little nuances and things that I can do to them that maybe I could have done some things with the other ones, but it would have been so difficult to do that I never did, kind of thing. So the other thing about switching these over, I was started from scratch, literally. And so I was able to do, and it took me a year, I would say, probably about a year to do all this stuff, maybe 9 months. But the beauty of it was, rather than the way that I did it before, I just kind of made some and then just kind of expanded here and there. This one, I did all of them at the same time. So I was able to really kind of compare, like, okay, what does this red look like compared to this one? And really got them, not that the other ones weren't, pretty close, but I think they're even more close. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited. So, oh, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Are they worse than Arizona? They are far worse than Arizona. Far worse. I mean, actually, the Diamondbacks are pretty good. The problem with the Diamondbacks is they're in the National League West. So they're competing against, the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Giants, for some odd reason, are good this year. The Diamondbacks are actually pretty good. It's just they're fighting against 3 other excellent teams, you know, in the standings. I wouldn't be surprised if the Diamondbacks actually in the second half come back a little bit. So we're pretty avid fans. We watch pretty much every Dodger game. so we know kind of especially what's going on with our league. But yeah, the Diamondbacks aren't too bad. The Rockies, on the other hand, are the worst team in baseball. I mean, they have like literally won, I want to say 20 games, and they've played like 100 or something like that, some 80 games. I mean, they may break a record this year. They're so bad. So anyway, it'll be fun. I don't really care. The Rockies, you know, we'll root for the Rockies. I don't care about the Twins for sure. So hopefully they'll pull one out. It'll be kind of cool just to see a game at Coors Field, though. For anybody that doesn't know baseball, most of you probably don't even care if you don't like baseball. But the Coors Field is interesting because it's very vast. Like the outfield's really big, and so you can have these like game shifts. It's very known for a non-pitcher friendly park, number one, because you're at such a high elevation that the ball doesn't spin as much, or it doesn't curve. There's no moisture in the air and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. There's all kinds of physics involved, but basically pitchers have a tough time there. And so between that and then the field being pretty vast, you can get these like crazy games where people score like 5 runs in an inning easily. So like if you're up by 2 or 3, that doesn't mean you're going to win the game at all. So it should be, hopefully we'll get a fun game where it kind of goes back and forth. So anyway, enough baseball. The other thing we got, I've got Gatling molds if anybody wants them. Like I said, okay. So again, the P-Town molds, if you're looking for silicone vertical round, you know, blank molds, these are much cheaper. And I'm completely being honest. The reason I even came out with these was because I figured I'm going to be using my own on the stream and people may want them. And it is a different design. You got like the round thing going on. And I like that, but I got to be honest. At this point, I'm using these just as much. Mainly because you can get this 12 blank thing, and frankly, I'd rather just pay for a mold than even make my own, because it takes a lot of silicone to make this. So I'm just warning you up front, the biggest advantage to this, if you want the clear thing, if you want to put like, you know, a third, or, you know, put some amount of resin, you can't do that very well with the blue ones because they're not see-through. But if you put a backlight on these, you can like mark your mold. You might see I've got some marks on other molds. You can mark these, put a big, you know, bright light behind it, and you can actually kind of pretty well fill to lines if you're trying to like stack colors somewhat. So that's an advantage. The round thing is an advantage, and they're also six inches deep if you want a little bit longer blank. That's why I made my own. I wanted longer blanks originally. Now I've found that that's not the greatest thing, because if you are going to sell them, if you're selling a lot, you actually don't want to go over about 5 1/8 because if you stack them vertically in a small flat rate box, you can fit 20. But if you go over 5 1/8, it doesn't fit in there. So you know, hindsight's 20/20. A banana baseball game? I'm not sure what that is. I've never heard that before. But anyway, they are available. I wanted to make sure that I used up my silicone before it went bad or anything like that. So I've got 2 in inventory. I may keep the other one for myself. We'll have to see. If they go real quick, I may just sell that third one too, because I'm pretty stocked up on my own. They do now. Every silicone mold is going to eventually get to the point where it's not really working that well anymore. Do I have a? And I want to show you one that I had to decommission. I want to show you the difference. So this is a brand new fresh mold. I don't know if you can see, but I mean, it's pretty translucent. Like you can see through it a little bit. Just, you know, I have a light above it, but I'm not even backlighting it. Here's one that I decommissioned. All right. You can see like it's kind of getting to the point where it's like white opaque. That means that it's kind of dead. And like the heat and the chemical reaction that's going on, all that kind of stuff eventually deteriorates the silicone, and there's really nothing you can do about it. You know, you can use spray release. frankly, I don't know if that really extends the life that far, and I don't use it. I don't find that you really need it if you're using Alumilite clear. If you're using a urethane resin, they tend to be a little less harsh on silicone. If you're using epoxy, I would highly recommend using a mold release of some kind. Probably go with this one. This one's for like epoxies and stuff. You can use the purple stoner. That's really a urethane release. It will work for epoxy, but I think that that's probably a better option to go with the one that's made for epoxy. So if you're using that, be aware that your molds, and it doesn't matter if it's silicone, it beats up HDPE just as hard, so it doesn't really matter what mold you're using. Epoxies are harsher on molds and will deteriorate them faster. Like I said, I use that one that I decommissioned for, like years. And it's not that I necessarily was using it a whole lot, but a good amount. More than like your casual weekend caster. So, they should last a good amount of time, but the more a mold gets used, the more quickly it'll kind of run out. So, doing more kitless today. Doing more Savannah baseball, Savannah banana. Ah, okay. If you get into the AAA leagues, one of my favorites is the Trash Pandas. I love that. Trash Pandas. They're the like single A or double A for the Angels. I got a Trash Pandas hat. It's hilarious. They got some crazy names in the lower levels. So let's see. Yeah, finishing up last week's, we're going to turn them this week. So should be pretty cool. All right, so let's head over to the lathe. I think that's all the... Oh, I guess I can put a link to the Gatling molds of it. Obviously I'm not a very good salesman on them. I just, if there's a reason that you need mine, that you really want mine for those specific reasons that I kind of showed you, then go for them. But there's cheaper options that work just as good, We'll get one of those, random people that drops on my website to buy all the expensive molds out. And worst case scenario, I'll use them, so I don't really care that much if they sell or not. I can use them too. Oh, and one other thing, I will be posting a faux burl 10-pack soon. I got 10 of them. So just look at my website for any of those types of things that you might need. So there's the link, and we're gonna go to the lathe. And make sure to sign up for my email newsletter if you're interested in deals on team colored blanks over the next months. Like I said, I'm trying to close out all the Alumilite white square team color blanks. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, of course. They're fine. I want to switch. Is this the right thing? There we go. I just want to get them out of inventory so I can start making the round ones. But I will be heavily discounting them, okay, like heavily. And if anybody's like, if you've got like a certain team that that you make a lot of blanks or pens, out of over the course of, whenever, if you want to buy out like the existing inventory of a specific blank that I have, then shoot me an email and we'll work out a deal. But I will be just putting them on discount as well. Probably, like every week I'll kind of highlight a blank, try and sell it. It's a little wobbly. Let's just get this guy nice and tight. I think that's as good as we're gonna get. Give it one more tightening, and I like to put a little, you can just come up with your tailstock, but what I find is unless you put a 60-degree angled thing, the center drill will put a 60-degree angle on this hole, and you don't have to go very far at all, but it's nicer to have that match up to your cone. Otherwise, this thing just keeps digging in, and it doesn't really hold it that well. So it's always a good idea to leave a little bit of extra material. If you're out of material, then you may just have to go with that tailstock thing only. I like to leave a good 1/4 to a 1/2 inch extra whenever I can, so that I can get that better work holding, and then you have less problems. The more secure the holding is, the better the cutting is going to be when you're turning it. All right, so I've got pretty specific dimensions that I go to on mine, and I could vary it and all that kind of stuff, but it's easier if I just write down a number and don't think about stuff, you know? Eventually, if I had a bunch of time and I wanted to, I would probably kind of play around with shaping and sizing and all that kind of stuff a little bit more, but I like the way that these turn out with these dimensions. I did that already. When I first got back into doing these things, I kind of played around with different dimensions, you know, diameters of blank, or like the final dimensions, the diameters and all that kind of stuff, how the threads, you know, matched up to, you know, do I leave how much of a step do I leave after the threads? And I kind of played around with a lot of that stuff, and I highly recommend that you do that, just to kind of figure out, like, do a bunch of different types of things so you can kind of see the difference and land on which one you like, you know. And you may have a few of them that you like too, but you don't have to stick with one. But it's fun to kind of play around and see, okay, well, what if I made this, you know, wider? What if I kind of dipped it? That's actually something that I want to kind of play with, is adding a little bit of curvature to the pen body, and see how, you know, is there any kind of cool shaping that I can do instead of just kind of straight. And how comfortable is that? That's the other thing, you know, if you are going to sell these, if you can find a pretty ergonomic design, then your pens are going to be well received. You know, people will get them and be like, wow. One thing that blew my mind, you know, obviously I'm not in this to sell pens, I sell blanks. But my brother-in-law actually he commissioned me to make basically a gift for somebody, for his boss. And so I made a pen, and it turned out that he's like a huge fountain pen guy. Like, he didn't even know before he ordered it. And it turned out he's like, I love this thing, and I guess I tuned the nib pretty well, number one, which that has nothing to do with the pen, but he said that it was weighted or like balanced pretty well. And I was like, okay. I didn't, I don't know. So it's always good if you can get that kind of feedback, you know. So obviously there's nothing wrong with my pens. Let's see here, what am I doing? That's not right. Yeah, oh, okay. Sorry, I had to look at what I was doing. Get off of that. The Globetrotters of baseball? Oh, that's funny, I never heard of that. Now, one thing to mention, you know, usually I like using the negative rate cutters when I'm turning resins. There's pretty much no way that you're going to get like a catch. They work so well, and so it's just a good insurance policy. But I find when I'm turning these, because there's quite a bit of resin, they're much longer than, like, you know, your typical kit pen, and they're just not as supported as much, right? There's no rigid tube underneath it and all that. And I just find that the regular cutters cut better. With the negative rake, it's much more of a scraping action, and so if there's any vibration, it's going to chatter in the middle of the blank. And I find that using the standard cutter, it cuts more, and you just don't get as much of that chatter. So something to kind of think about. I just find the turning to be a lot more enjoyable. Because otherwise, I guess you can try and hold the blank and cut with one hand if you're getting a bunch of chatter. I gotta be honest, I was never good at that kind of thing. Anyway, on any spindle. And if you don't do that, if you don't get rid of it while you're cutting, then you're gonna have a lot of sanding to do. So just something to kind of think about. All right, let's check some dimensions here. Like I said, I've got a few. It doesn't have to be super rigid. Like I've got a range if I get close, but I like to know where I'm at also. Let's turn our calipers on here. Zeroed out. I can never see what these actually say, because it's dark on the backside, so if this blows out the camera, I'll turn it off in a minute. I got everything in millimeters. Switch it over. It's pretty close, right? Yeah. All right, so I got that shoulder pretty good. Now I'm going to end up hacking off, a good portion of this. Oh, you know what, guys? I think I messed up. I was supposed to sand first. Ooh. Yeah, so you gotta sand the inside first in the collet chuck. I didn't even think about that. Whoopsies. All right, now I want to go down to. Okay, so I got quite a bit to take off. Problem is I got this thing tapered at this point. I could still probably switch it though. Let's see here. Alright, so if I straighten that out, I should be able to sort of fix my problem a little bit. I just wanted to shape the pen, move on with my life. All right, so let's try this. Let's see if I can flip this now. I gotta find my, this is why it's good to have a whole bunch of collets. Do I have, shoot. Let's see here, so. Huh. Yeah, I should have that. Huh. That's weird. I guess I don't have a 15 millimeter. Huh. Okay. Let's go into the other box of things. It's also good to have a conversion chart thing so you can see gonna be pretty close. But I gotta take a little bit more off. I'm gonna take just a hair off, and then this will fit 9/16. Okay, and like, you know, it's not like I gotta turn this or anything like that. I'm just sticking a sanding stick thing in there. So even if it's wobbling around and doing weird stuff, it's not that big of a deal. All right, that ought to do it. Yeah, I'm definitely not putting this in a 4-jaw chuck. This will work just fine. Yeah, I know. Well, you know, I don't do transparent blanks very often, so. Kind of got things down for the regular ones. Once you get all the milling operations done, then it's pretty much like, okay, just cut it up. All right, so we don't need dust collection while we wet sand, so that's nice. All right, so I'm going to take off the mandrel off the cap now, so I don't mess up, and I'm going to put it into my 3/4 collet so that I don't forget that. I don't think I will at this point, but you know, whatever steps you can take to not screw everything up, it's always good. All right, now the problem is we do have some threads here. And again, you know, if I would have thought about this a little bit more, you probably are better off sanding this stuff before you do all the milling and all that stuff. Once you get the right drill bits, that's probably when you really want to sand these things, which I kind of forgot. I think I've only done this once. So I was talking about a stick. So what I've got here, man, these glasses are killing me. Is just a stick that I put a slit down the middle of. I don't know, there it is. And so what it does is you just cut strips of sandpaper and then wrap it around it basically. So let's see here, I've got 600 to start. And you just want to, you know, make sure that it fits in there, but you can just kind of put this thing around and then just kind of spin it around there. I don't think I need this full strip. I'm going to see if it fits fully length, fully whatever without cutting. Yeah, there's no way. So I think I can do about half of this strip here. I forget. I usually have things kind of like this, kind of pre-cut, but I think I just cut these kind of long strips, and that was all. That was as pre-planning as I got with this. Now, this thing's going to be spinning, so one thing you want to think about is, I think I want to do it the other way, because the blank's going to be going this way, so we want it to wrap that way too. Is this the right way? Got to think about this. It's easier to have a visual aid. Come on, get in there. Yeah. So you want to make sure, let's see, no, I am doing it wrong. So I want to wrap it in the same direction so that it doesn't just unravel the thing right away. Now, the problem is though, I've got these threads, so I want to make sure that I get past those quick. That's still too long on this one. Do I have a thinner one? I thought I made maybe 2. You might even need a couple. Does this even fit? Yeah, okay, that fits. This, I think, is basically just a 1/4 inch dowel. Let's see how that goes. I may take off a little bit of the top of those threads, but I don't think that's going to really be that big of a deal. I want to get my speed correct. It is wobbling a little bit, but it's definitely not going to cause a problem here. Let's see here. Another thing you can do is just squirt like water in there. I don't have a, I have a squirt bottle. Could use WD-40 even. I do have a squirt bottle of that. Let's see here. Well, I've got, I didn't really think about this too much before I started, did I? Okay, one thing I can do, okay, bear with me. Being in the pigment bottling business, I've got lots of little bottles. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to grab one of my 2-ounce bottles, and then I've got these, I also have plenty of different types of squirters. I gotta find them. That's too big. I got a really good idea. Hold on real quick, guys. I just got to go through all my boxes of things that I didn't want to use for the pigments. Find something very specific. Ah, found them. All right, so I got a pretty good solution, I think, here. So I got a little plastic bottle, and then I have these types of nozzles. These are okay for pigments, but I don't like dealing with these extra caps and all that stuff, so I gave up on those pretty quick. So what I can do is then I can just fill it with water and squeeze that in there. So I'm going to go fill this with water real quick. And I could have got like a 4-ounce or even bigger bottle probably. I might have to, in fact, what I'm going to do is actually just fill up a 4-ounce cup, like a mixing cup with water real quick, and just have a bucket of water that I can refill this thing whenever I need. In fact, I'm going to get an even bigger bucket. I'm going to get a gigantic bucket of water. And then I'll just dunk it, and then we got a pretty good way. And this is actually not even a bad way of like when you're sanding anything, to just have like a squeeze bottle full of water and just squirting it off. You know, like spraying it while you're sanding, it's not a bad way to go either. I would recommend at that point you have like a bucket, a full-on bucket, probably under your, under the workpiece on the lathe. All right, so I've got a giant bucket here. I'm just going to fill my bottle up. What do you guys think about this? It's pretty ingenuitive, I think. Okay, so I'm going to squirt a little water in there, get this guy dunked again. Let me get this thing nice and tight. And then I'm going to turn this thing on. Like I said, I've got threads at the top, so I'm kind of staying away from that. One other thing that I can do, I'm going to stop this real quick. One other thing that I can maybe do that might even help me see where this stick is wet that. That didn't help at all. All right, now the only thing that I didn't really think too much about. Oh geez, that's really tight. Well, I lost my... This is going to be a fun one, guys. I think I'm pretty sure I had a thinner stick before for the body, because like this is pretty tight. This is a pretty tight fit here. Luckily I've got tweezers. And you can kind of squirt that out a little bit. Luckily the Lathe buddy's doing pretty good at absorbing stuff. Let me look. I'm pretty sure that I have another thinner stick, because I already ran into this problem the last time. And that time I actually pre-planned and I like tried things out ahead of time. I just don't know what I did with that stick. Hope I didn't throw it away. I'm like, what is this stupid stick with a slit in it? That's useless. Should be in my sanding drawer. But it's not. There it is. Why is it in that drawer? That's the wrong drawer. Totally wrong drawer. I had a stick of bamboo. All right, so I need to wrap this like this, and then this fits a lot better. It's still going to be kind of tight when I kind of put it in there. I'm going to kind of get some of this debris off of this sandpaper. All right, let's see what the comments have to say. In fact, before I even do that, I'm gonna add a little bit more water. Oh, I think I might have. But the thing is, you can actually, oh, I got those threads. You can actually feel, I can feel it getting smoother on the inside. And like, frankly, you probably don't need a ton of sanding. It's not like you're gonna have a bunch of like tool marks. Oh, that kind of seems like it didn't work. This worked a lot better last time, guys. I'm just going to say that right now. I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. This is not so easy this time. All right, you stay put. That's probably why it was a lot smoother. Oh, yeah, this thing is... Do I have it like, am I going the wrong way? What's going on here? Why is it unraveling? Oh, I was going the wrong way. That's why. Obviously, I don't have a lot of experience with this, so I'm learning with you. There we go. There we go. Now we can do it. Now we can do it, guys. Ah, look at that. But it is sanding smoother already, like I was saying. Oh, yeah. Well, now I don't feel so bad. I thought that I was sanding the threads there, and I don't really think I was, because there was no sandpaper exposed. All right. I think that's probably pretty good with that one. I'm going to give this a little bit of a dunky dunk. Get all that junk out of there. And we just go up through the grits, you know, the same way. Let's see here. So I'm trying to think of a way that I can remember to do this right. Put it on that way. You want to be twisting. You know, you want to be rolling it in the direction that the lathe is spinning. So I don't know if that helps whatsoever, but maybe that'll help you out. No, that's the right way. Oh, is it the wrong way? I think it was the right way. Wasn't it? Oh, it's not the right way. Good God. Okay, so don't do it that way. So the little flap is going to go in the direction, and you twist it the opposite way. Okay, I think it was sanding. I don't think it came apart. Now the one problem I have is I think I cut these things. You know what I'm going to do, actually? I cut this too deep, really, and I don't like that. So like, basically this paper sits like down here, and so I'm just banging the bottom of the thing with the stick. So I'm going to actually cut this down a little bit. Just got a little Japanese knife. I'm going to try and cut this without totally wrecking the whole thing. Only wrecked half of the thing. Bamboo, not the greatest. I'm going to use my nippers to kind of just cut this. Cuts pretty well like that. Okay. So you hang the thing the direction you want to go. I kind of wrecked this thing. I didn't have a thinner wooden dowel, and I realized I could have turned something. Is that the right? That's still not. Yeah, that's the right way. Okay. Now I can get hopefully to the bottom better. Yeah, internal sanding. I told you guys, I'm not looking forward to this. I don't like sanding in the first place, frankly. If I could just snap my fingers and it just polished itself, oh, I'd be fine with that. But basically, you know, all we're doing is going up through the grits the same way, you know. Now, here's the problem. So I was telling you that you could go back and forth and mess around and look around. Oh, do I need to go all the way up? You can't do that. You're not going to know. I mean, I guess I could like sand this on the outside as well right now before I turn it and like get an idea of what it looks like, you know, without, you know, at like 1,000 or 2,000 grit, going for the frost look versus going all the way up. If you're going to go all the way up, you're going to want to go all the way through every grit of, you know, your Zona papers. I'm going to call that good. I think that was probably good enough. And so I'm finding that, so this is like, I think, is this the full sheet length? I have one of those like paper cutter things, and it makes it a lot easier. Now you're not going to want to, like 8.5. So this is sideways length of the Zona papers. And I really only need about 1/3 of that. So I'm just cutting it. These scissors are my sandpaper scissors, and they don't work that well either. They work pretty good on like sandpaper. They don't work on paper. That's the wrong way. Okay. One thing that I haven't been doing is giving it a little bit of spray. I like that little spray bottle thing. That's pretty cool. Charles is here. Yeah. Strap in. It's going to be a wild ride. You missed all the fun. I'm trying to figure out how to actually do this. Okay, so we got blue, pink. Let's see. Do I have all of them though, even? I don't even think I cut them all. I think I just went to pink. This is what I was saying. I wish there was just an easier, a better, like, holder system. I'd rather just have like a, I don't know, like maybe even like an HDPE type thing. Be kind of bendy, I guess. I don't know. This thing is feeling really smooth though on the inside now. I just hope that I'm not jacking the internal threads for the section completely, because I'm pretty sure I'm hitting them quite a bit. I can't see where my paper is. All right, so I need, what are the other colors? I need a light blue and why do I not have those cut? That's silly. I'm trying to go for full polish here. Like I said, you could probably stop at like gray and get kind of a, did I do turquoise? Not light blue. Turquoise is what I'm looking for. Turquoise and white. I really wish that they would color the white one not white, like the back of these things. To me, that's just kind of silly. Because I can never tell which side is which. All right, so this is 11, so I don't need more than an inch. This is 6. Okay. All right, so we got turquoise. Where'd my bamboo go? Got some turquoise here. Get on there. Ah, that's nice. Yeah, this part is challenging. Patience challenging. And you know, I have a feeling, because I don't want to sit here and spend 3 years doing the insides of these things. I'm probably going to have a few scratches here and there, and that's fine. Whatever. I'm not that worried about it. As you guys know, I'm more interested in seeing what does the concept of this blank actually look like. You know, I'm not going for perfect pens personally, because I don't even usually sell these things. So that's just a fair warning to anybody that wants to buy one of my pens. You know, they're fine, but are they the best thing on the planet? No. I really need to swap out this stick, because bamboo's just really not a good material. It was just the perfect size, you know? I was like, okay. All right, so this is the white one. I can definitely, as I've been going on though, I can definitely see the paper better. So, you know, I don't think that it's going to be terrible. But I'm just not going to, I don't know if there's really a way to know for sure unless you polish the outside. Again, like I said, polish the outside and then have to, before you've turned it. I don't understand. I don't know. Some of this stuff is a little bit paradoxical to me. I think you got to just kind of wing it and hope for the best. Hope you got all the scratches out. That feels really smooth in there. So I'm going to call that good at this point. I think that's probably good. It feels good to me. Like I said, you can really feel the difference as the grits go on. Just going to kind of squeeze that stuff out. I really like this bottle idea though. And you can pick these things up on Amazon and whatever. Just a little squirt bottle, you know. So now I need to clean all this stuff up real quick. And I'm just gonna basically blow out the, okay, I'm gonna take this thing out. There we go. Dump that out. Pull this guy out of here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blow this out on the inside. Try and get that as dry as possible. I don't really want it to be all wet when I put it back on the mandrel. I'm going to put, let's see, this thing kind of got messed up. Get this stuff out of the way. I just want to turn this stupid body, you know what I mean? I was so excited to turn it, get it all shaped. And then I was like, hit the brakes. This ain't right. Okay. So I got all that stuff. Get it out of the way. Not a bad idea to have a pair of tweezers on hand just in case you get your sandpaper stuck in there. Okay. So let's go back to, how does this thing look? Ooh, it's looking glossy in there though. One thing I want to do before we even move on yet, I'm very curious to just check and see how these threads work. Well, they're very smooth. Okay, so I didn't damage the threads in any way. Not, you know, definitely not enough to cause a problem. It's still tight fitting. And I mean, if anything, it's smoother than it was before. So I don't think you really have to worry so much about, I mean, you don't want to sit there with the 600 grit and be taking out those threads, but I don't know that it's like going to be terrible if you hit them a few times, obviously. Okay. Let's turn. This one's kind of tight. There we go. Okay, so I had it almost done actually before. Ooh, it's still turning smooth. Good. Sometimes when you take things off and then put them back on, you got to and this probably still isn't perfect, but a lot of times you got to return it if you want it concentric. That's looking pretty good. All right, so let's finish turning this puppy. Luckily, that didn't actually even cut into the dimensions that I was going for. Having to make that kind of last minute adjustment to get this thing to fit. It's still, the back end, you know, I'm going to lop off about 1/2 inch most likely, or 1/4 inch anyway. But the back end was going to go that thin anyway. let's take some measurements. You don't have to sand the inside. This stuff goes pretty quick. I'm gonna get you guys in and look at this thing now that we've got it turned a little bit. Obviously it's not polished right now, but man, this is gonna be pretty wicked, I think. One of the main things that I'm really focused on, curious about is, you know, one of the parts of this, we use the navy pigment, you know, from the Color Lab pigments, my pigments, and I want to see, you know, how much, what does this look like with how much we put in there, because if you don't already have transparent dyes, you can still use the Color Lab pigments. You just put a very small drop in, right? So that's pretty easy. So let's take a couple measurements real quick here. Again, I have some, you know, an idea of what I want. One of the main things is I don't want this to be, I want this dimension to be pretty close to what I want. I don't really care that much about the rest of everything. Got a little bit of a hump right here. I don't want a hump. Yeah, so that's looking good. I can kind of eyeball it. Now at this point, like my numbers are good. Everything's fine. What I want to do is just take out, there's, like I said, a little bit of a bump. Right at the beginning. And it was a little bit out of whack after taking it off. And I just want to get, I'm scooting back and just kind of looking at the profile. And I think that's it. That's all she wrote, guys. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I also have length numbers. And oh, there it is. Some length numbers. Let's see here. Yeah. I lost my marker. Somewhere in that general vicinity, and then I'm going to mark that. And what I'm going to do real quick, I've kind of shifted. I used to sand and then like come back and lop it off and then sand again. What I want to do is just get the initial 600 grit, like all the flattening, get all the tool marks out. I can turn that off now. And then we're gonna take that off at the end. But I want to get, because I tend to press a little bit harder on the 600 sometimes, and I'd rather just have full support while I'm doing that. All right, so this is good. All right, so my question to you guys is, what are you guys working on? Who's really excited about trying out this internal sanding method? I didn't present this in a very positive light, but it's not that bad. And like the benefits are pretty awesome. When you make these transparent pens, it's really, I find personally, I think it's really cool when you can see like the internals of what's kind of going on in your pen, you know? You see that ink holder, you can kind of see the nib sometimes if you're talking about like the cap. It's pretty cool. Like, I don't know, it's not especially compared to like my typical thing. Like you usually you're like hiding everything. Oh my God, there's a tube in there. If you're doing like the kit pens, you got to hide it. I think it's pretty cool to be able to actually see through, and it opens up such a wide variety of more design applications, more design options for blank making. If you are a blank maker, you know, I was heavily limited, basically. I would not go for anything relatively transparent for the most part. Not with color or anything like that. There were a couple things that I might have gone like clear or something like that, but you know, you knew that you were going to be covering up stuff, and there was a thing about it. It wasn't really a design element. But you can really design around clear, you know, transparent colors now, and glitters and things like that. All right, so we'll speed this guy up. I'm going to turn the dust collector back on. Harold, got an idea brewing. Pepper grinders, that's cool. Ah, the faux burls, that would be really cool. Nice. Yeah, you're gonna have to internal sand. That's pretty cool though, I like that a lot. Oh, ended up seeing scratches, yeah. That's kind of the worst. You get done and you're like, especially like in this case, I am not gonna be surprised because I didn't really put that much time into it, you know? But if you like really put a lot of effort into it and you're like, oh, that should be great. And then you can see it, then you're kind of like, oh, that was great. So worth my time. You can kind of go back, you know, like I was all freaking out that I got to figure out work holding and do all that stuff so that I can sand. If you do most of the work, you know, you do it correctly, it's being held and you get it in there. And then you come back at the end, it's totally done. There's obviously no way at this point that you're going to be safely hooking it back up to your lathe. You can go in there and spot sand and probably get, you know, the majority of those little scratches out. Honestly, you can go back with just that stick and kind of, you know, dig around in there a bit. You know what the best tool to get rid of this, and I know this is okay, you know, yet one more tool that I need to have, but actually this one, from, I don't know what this one's called, the CI7, it's got a super sharp point, and it takes off stuff, like, without it, like, wobbling around or doing anything. You know, I don't know, I don't use that for a whole lot of anything else, but it sure does lop things like that off really, really well. All right, the camera's right in my way. Get out of the way. Let's see here, loosen that up. I don't know if I can. Hopefully that's good. All right. I'm going to leave a kind of a little point on the end. Telling you guys, minor design element changes, that's the spice of life. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my 600 and get this end nice and sanded up. Try to round over this probably fairly sharp edge. I always want nice soft edges whenever you can. All right, and then I'll do a little bit of lengthwise. And even do a little bit of this, just to kind of get rid of those radial scratches, so that when we move up, everything's good. I'm going to put some gloves on because I really don't like, my hands get so dried out and cracked. Because it's so dry here that I'm going to, let's see here. How do I add a clear ink window? Most likely, I don't know for sure. I'm guessing what you would do is you'd be segmenting, you know, a clear blank. And I think actually, Charles probably knows a lot more than me about this, but I'm kind of guessing you might even use actually acrylic, like literally a acrylic rod, possibly. I mean, you could just use a, you know, you could just use Alumilite, but I want to say that I've seen people and they actually put like an acrylic, like it's actual acrylic. I would imagine that that might, I don't know for sure, but acrylic rod may not yellow. Possibly. I mean, there's pretty much, I don't know, there's some, all these resin companies say, oh, it'll resist yellowing or doesn't yellow, but I don't know of any resin, epoxy, urethane. Polyester resin does pretty well usually, but I mean, even that eventually will yellow. Acrylic rod may not. I don't, I think it probably does too, but I don't know. This giant heart thing, I can never see the, yeah, the detailer has a rounded tip. Yep. They both work really well. I just, the micro is usually too kind of like pointy. Like it's too aggressive for what I usually need it for. But it works really good if you need like what I just did. If you just need like a quick thing and it's not rubbing, it just gets in there and just lops it off. Okay, do a little bit of this number. All right, moving up to the gray. Let's see here. Darren's making BMW M Series pen and pencil set. That's sweet. New pickleball pen. Oh my God, you got a pickleball pen? Gretchen just took a pickleball lesson up in Reno with her in-laws. I think pickleball would be great, but with my knee at this point, I'm just like pretty sure that I'm just gonna wreck it. I don't know. I'll try it sometime, but pickleball is definitely not on the top of my list of things that I care about at all, you know? So like if I got hurt playing pickleball, I would be so mad at myself. If I get hurt on my mountain bike or I get hurt like snowboarding, okay, whatever. But I wanted to do that, you know? At least I got hurt doing something I like. Not to say that I wouldn't like pickleball. I'm sure it's fun, but I just don't, it's not top of my list of things that I need to do. Snowboarding and mountain biking are. I wish I could get back into running, but I don't know. I actually did run quote unquote, a little bit the other day. So my neighbor and I were chatting, and he like pulled something out of his pocket, and like a receipt was blowing away. So I like was running down the street after it. So that was literally the first time I've run since the last time I tore my meniscus, which was like a year and a half ago. And I was like, oh. And now, you know, you just instinctually move. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if I should have done that. Go to the blue here. I think I'm just going to go with the Zona papers all the way up on this. Why not, you know? It's kind of how I'm feeling about it. They work pretty well, too. What I don't really want to deal with is putting the liquid polish and getting it in the threads. That's kind of why I'm like, could use the magic juice, but I think I'm just going to polish up wet sanding with the papers here, the Zona papers. See what we get. Like I said, they do a good job. If you haven't tried it yet, give it a shot, you know. Just go all the way up through the papers or you know, get a pack. And if you haven't tried Zona paper, I highly recommend it. It works really well on you know, plastics, basically. All right, so we got our blue, and then we got to do pink. This thing is looking pretty darn shiny already right now, I can tell. One of the fun things about doing, you know, polishing with just the papers, like, you know, if you're using magic juice, it's got a bunch of junk all over it. You can't see it, but you're just wet sanding. And so as you're sanding with the Zona papers, you can really see the thing come to life, shine up right before your eyes. It's awesome. Okay, so we got pink, white, turquoise. Okay. Let's see, Mark. Knee replacement scheduled next week. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be in line for one of those. I feel your pain literally. I'm going to give this knee, because it still doesn't feel great. It's better. I mean, it's like compared to the surgery fixed the problem. I couldn't even walk. I mean, I couldn't walk. So without it like popping out a joint feeling, that's not what was happening, but it kept catching. And so the surgery did fix that. And if I just was going to sit around and do nothing, that's fine. But it gets sore really easily. And I mean, the weird thing about it is it'll get sore just like in a snap of a finger. Like, it's like, I don't know what's going on with it. And no doctor's ever explained anything. So I'm guessing that the joint is just completely jacked and there's really nothing I can do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until snowboarding season. I'm going to try and strengthen the heck out of my legs as best I possibly can. See how the snowboarding season goes, and then if I'm still like, this is terrible, I may just get a knee replacement. Because that's probably what the problem is. Let's see, I didn't do I think I want to do this. Did I do this? I don't remember doing this. Talking about knee replacements. So I hope your surgery goes well. I know a few people that have had knee replacement surgery and they were way happier after. So hopefully everything will go great and you'll be pain-free. Just make sure to do the PT. Don't overdo the PT. Also, do whatever they tell you to do and that's it. I know so many people that are like, oh, if I double down, if I do 3 times as much, that'll make it a lot better. Just do what they say and you'll be good to go. You haven't used the Zoni yet? I hope you try it out. Let us know how you feel about it, because it works really well, I think. I really feel like it works better than the micro mesh stuff, especially those padded things. There's just so much more feedback that you can feel. And frankly, there's like 2 steps less, I think, 1 or 2, and you get the same results. So, okay, I'll have some of that, you know. I think it's cheaper too. But I like that you can get the you know, those 8.5 by 11 sheets of it, and you can cut it into whatever size you actually use. So you get, it just seems like it goes way farther. I haven't used micro mesh in a very long time, but there's a reason. Because when I tried this stuff out, I'm like, yep, give it. Can't bend your knee without pain. Oh yeah. Yep. I think the knee replacement will fix it. You know what the weird thing is? My problem is impact. Like, I still have the same problem, because what happened was I basically took a step on, it's my right knee, took a step, and the knee just popped really, really bad, and my meniscus ripped. So, like, you know, I don't exactly know what happened, and nobody's really explained it perfectly, but so that it's that impact. And I still have where between, like, just before you lock your knee out and when you lock your knee out, it pops, like in the same place that all the injuries happened, and, you know, like where it hurts, it always hurts. And so I'm just, unless I get some other surgery or they replace the joint, I don't really think that my knee is gonna hold up too much. That's why I'm very worried about running, because I think that I can just see myself doing the same exact thing. And I wasn't running hard. I was literally, it was like light jogging, very light jogging. And I just took a step and pop. Same exact thing twice. So I don't really want to go for a third one. All right, let's see what this thing looks like. What do you guys think? I'm going to get let's see. At this point, I think I'm going to wipe it off with a microfiber towel, because it's, you know, it's fully polished at this point. I don't think I even really want to use a blue towel. So I'm going to be very careful and just kind of wipe this off while it's running. And then come back in here and just do a little bit of spinny. Try and get some of the junk out of those threads. Wipe this off. One thing that's also not a bad way to go, and I'm a little hesitant, but using the final step is not a bad way to go. I really think that it has like statics things if you use the final step of the magic juice. I think it kind of takes away some of the static. I think it has fingerprint preventing stuff going on in there. So you can hit it with a little bit of that, or you could go with the ring bling from Turner's Warehouse. Does kind of the same thing. I'm not going to mess with it right now, but it isn't a bad way to go. Definitely think the magic juice goes a little bit more glossy. I'm gonna move the camera around. I get a little bit better angle if I'm over here. Kind of see what's going on. Try and stop this thing from bouncing. Man, what do you guys think of that though? So, and there's water on the inside. So this isn't the greatest example of like what it, you know, is there scratches or not, because there's like moisture on the inside. It would need to get fully dried out, and then I can kind of, you know, see what's going on. But this is pretty cool. One thing I want to do before we move on is just because we're having a little bit of fun, and I like to kind of see, you know, we can kind of take a peek at what this is actually going to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a nib in my section and a converter, and let's see what that kind of looks like, see what we can actually see in there. So I popped a nib in there, converter, so that we get an example of, it's not super see-through, most of it actually. Right there, you get a window. Unfortunately, all we're seeing is the black knob thing. So like, if you're gonna do, if you wanna see the ink itself, you need to make the first portion of your blank clear. I'm trying to see, so looks like the bottom of the ink well is right there maybe. And it goes probably all the way up to at least here somewhere. But overall, not bad. Now, I mean, it is like transparent-ish, but you know, you could even add like less of that navy blue than we did on the stream to get like really see-through if you wanted to go that way. If you're gonna go for just if you want a transparent color, I think the easiest thing to do is use like the Alumilite dyes. They're transparent. Most of them, you know, like red, yellow, orange, probably. Trying to think of the other colors. Those three for sure. Like, there's no amount of that stuff that you're gonna add, and it's not gonna be like see-through, like stained glass. The blue is pretty dark. Ocean blue's not too bad. It can darken up a little bit, get, you know, less opaque, but it's generally pretty see-through. Purple's pretty dark. You got to really watch out how much you put in there. And it's not so much like, it's still kind of transparent. It's just super dark. So, you know, if you're going to go for that, it might be easier just to have transparent dyes. But, you know, if you just do a few tests with the Color Lab pigments, you know, you should find some amount that'll work. The one thing that I will caution against, or caution you about, the Robin Egg has a lot of white in it, so I'm not sure, that one may not work so well for that kind of thing. Even Watermelon and Coral have quite a bit, but they're less than the Robin Egg, so just a caution, let's say, about that. But I'm pretty happy with this. Let's see, what did you guys think in the chat here? Tesha's here. How's it going? Yeah, make sure that, yeah, good. Make sure the PT's already scheduled too. Got some blanks in the pressure pot, Kim. Nice. Yeah, I used to use the micro mesh sheets, but they're gray. They're all gray. Different shades of gray. Useless and more expensive. Yeah, the gold is looking good. That's my, no, this is the Galactic Ghost, I think. Galactic Ghost gold. And then we got the Galactic Ghost purple, or violet, or whatever. And then the blues are that Color Lab navy blue. We added a little bit of clear here and there. So pretty cool. I'm liking this. This is looking good. Will the pen go dark once ink is inserted? Like this one, you can't really see it, so it's not going to affect anything. But if you had like a dead clear blank, or you know, like pen body, all you would see is the ink well, and like it's not like painting the inside of the blank, because if you do that, then it kind of takes on, and it almost looks like the resin itself in the pen was like dyed, you know, or whatever. It's not going to really affect things. It's just going to look like an ink well with ink in it, if you can totally see it. I don't know that you're really going to see a whole lot. You might, you know, if I put like a darker, like a blue or whatever ink in there, you may kind of see it. I don't know. I don't really think it's going to significantly affect anything on this pen, or like significantly change anything. All right, so let's do the cap. We got to do the sanding first. doing the sanding. I find the cap is usually a little bit easier, but that is the one that you want to, you want to make sure that the cap's really good if you're going for totally clear. Because it tends to be the thinnest, I find, in most cases. After you've turned it down, it's kind of like the thinnest component. And again, you got threads in there, so don't get too aggressive with it. I don't think it's going to wreck anything if you hit them a couple times, but you don't want to do extended periods of that. All right, let's get the camera out of the way a little bit. So this one, like I said, and it's easy to get in there, and I did at the right time. So once again, I think you might be better off, before you tap the threads, that's probably the best time to sand this thing. Then you don't have to worry about anything. It all goes the way you expected it to. Where did the... Here they are. Nice strips. Plus 600. I don't know what that is. All right, so I'm going to get these things kind of lined up here. So gray, green, white, turquoise, pink, blue. Okay. And let's see if I can figure out which side. I think this is the... Okay. Now, I need a 600 grit, which I don't know if I have another one of them. Okay, I do. All right, so we kind of figured it out. You want to point the sandpaper in the direction that the lathe is spinning. You may be able to get away. You know what? I'm going to try this. I think you could probably get away with just going with green on these. Like I said, there's really not going to be a bunch of tool marks. So let's just try and go through the Zona papers only and see how that goes. See what we get. I mean, it's not like we're going to be able to compare it to something else, but I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of like bumps and ridges that I really need to go down to the 600. Now I find technically the green, I may be actually like a 600 grit is what they're claiming, but I find the Zona papers to be less, I don't know, like less aggressive, maybe. So maybe it is technically 600 grit scratches that it's putting in, but it just doesn't cut as fast as the silicon carbide. The wet dry paper. Where's my... I'm going to use my little water bottle thing. Spray in there. Look at that. It's pretty fun. Okay. So let's just try the green. And I've got a couple steps in there. I don't know if this would be a time where you're like, I don't really think I want to do the step thing. I don't know if it would affect the look of anything. So just, that's something to think about. I don't know. Brian's here. Coral with ghost. Oh, I like that. Which ghost did you go with? I did the right direction, I know. For today, yeah. And then the problem is I don't turn these or do this. Like the last time I did this, I figured it out last time too, and I'm pretty sure I did the same backwards thing, 5 times. Once I learn the trick, that's fine. But if I don't turn one of these, or if I don't sand the inside, it's been like 6 months at least. This is always the problem with me and like the laser, CNC and all that stuff. I'd do it, I'd figure stuff out, and then I wouldn't do it for like 6 or 8 months. And I'm like, I don't even know how this thing works. Makes it tough. Gotta practice. Yeah, that's really gritty. What's going on? Might have had some junk down in the bottom there. I'm gonna... Might have been some debris down there. Hope I wasn't sanding that around. That's not going to help. That will definitely just put scratches in. Silver. Huh. So it's starting to feel pretty smooth. Like I said, you can kind of tell once you've gotten things kind of going. Now, I'm not... Yeah, I still feel like there's junk. Might not be a bad idea to, like, if you really want to be careful, drop the blank in the... I'm trying to get this thing down to the end here. Drop your blank into your... what was it? Sonic cleaner before you start doing this stuff, and then if there's any debris, the sonic cleaner will hopefully get all that junk out of there. Because if I feels like there's debris possibly in there, or there was at some point, which means I'm basically just scratching, sanding it with plastic junk. That's detrimental to my sanding efforts, but hopefully not. We'll see. All right, I'm going to call that good. You want to, like the first grit, you would want to go a little bit more like that. That's the one you really want to focus on, I would say, generally. And then from there, once you've gotten everything good, then all you're really worried about is just taking out the previous grit scratches, right? So it shouldn't take as long to just get the green scratches out, the green paper scratches out with the gray. Internal sanding, my favorite. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Let's move on to the blue. You can maybe, I guess, stop it. One thing I didn't really think about. You can maybe stop the lathe spinning and go in there and do like just in and out like a straight sand, without the lathe spinning. That might help too. So like this. I didn't really think about that. That's probably a good idea. I'm not sure that I'm a huge fan of this step because I don't have much of a step. I mean, it's kind of nice, but I don't know. The majority of this thing is the 33/64, whatever drill bit. The other one's like a 15/32 or something like that. Actually, so what I'm doing is I'm putting it, wrapping it further down, so that it's not just, I'm not just smacking the end of the pen with the wood stick. Hoping that it's kind of curling over and sanding the top part of this too a little bit. Obviously we can't tell, but that's the hope. Yeah, I like the wash bottle thing. I don't know that there's a lot of stuff in there. I should probably wash it more often, I guess. Like I said, you can get those little water bottles. You can get all kinds of different stuff on Amazon possibly have one sitting around. If you really wanted to, you could maybe just clean out a bottle of dye. With, you know, clean it out with acetone and just reuse it possibly. I don't know. For water. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of this. Try and get down in the bottom there. Okay, pink. Moving on to turquoise. Oops, I'm going to go down to the end here. I'm gonna flush it. Three days. It's supposed to be one day. 14 sheets of sheeting. Oh. Oh, 6:30. I would just go get a hotel room. You guys do whatever you're doing. I'm out of here. So once again, I don't know how much see-through we're going to get on these things. But it just kind of depends, you know. Definitely see the stick moving around in there. So I mean, it's, you know, a little bit of the kind of like translucency going on. Okay, final step. Whew. And we got to turn it, of course. The caps turn really fast because you're really not taking off a whole lot of material. It depends on what size and everything, but for me, I use the 14 millimeters for the body cap, you know, body cap threads, and you're really not taking off a whole lot of material in the first place. So the turning on the cap is by far the fastest. And then we're not going to be I'm not sanding the section because I really don't want to mess up the nib threads in there. And I don't know if it's even going to make any difference really. We'll see. I think that's something that I would have really had to sand before I put the threads on the inside. I think that's how that really should have gone. And you could probably, I don't know for sure, but it seems like that is, oh shoot, stuff came off. That's probably the smart way to do it in the first place. Get all the drilling done before you need to tap, you know, or put threads or whatever on the insides, and then just, you know, sand it before you've done the threads. That's probably the smartest way to do it. I don't know. Let me know if that doesn't add up to you guys. Yeah, that thing's not really working. Okay, I'm done. Good enough. And I'm done with my little stick methods. So no more of that, because I'm not doing this section. So we are done internal sanding, guys. Oh, yeah, I will say it's not my favorite thing. But it's not that bad either. Let me get my bucket real quick. There's probably still some water in there, and I'm just going to do a little kind of quick flush just to get any junk out. And then I'm just going to dismount this thing like this. So it'll probably, I don't want to rip it out and, oh God, yep. That wasn't what I was worried about, actually. That wasn't even the thing I was worried about. It's okay though. A little water never hurt anybody. It is summer. My lathe is hot. Look at that, the lathe buddy saved everything. It really is my buddy. I'm just gonna wring out the lathe buddy a little bit over here. Lathe buddy saves the day. Awesome. I'm just going to drape this thing over my pressure pot in front of the fan so it dries off a little bit more. That was pretty awesome. Now I am going to spray my lathe bed down with a little bit of WD-40 just to promote getting rid of any water. Do you guys know what is the WD? It's water. What does WD-40 stand for? I literally didn't even realize that that's what it was. The whole water displacement. That's like literally what WD-40 is meant for, is displacing water on like metal stuff or whatever you want. And it's they tested a bunch of different ones, and recipe 40 was the one that worked the best. I love that. I didn't even know what it meant. All right, so I'm going to blow out the cap here, get some of that water out, most of it hopefully. Okay, and got my collet. So I really didn't feel like I was on the threads in this, this time much. But if anything, like I said, I think it might have just made the threads a little bit smoother, frankly. I need to go replace my water bucket that I spilled everywhere. Because that's the one that I actually need. Before I do that, I'm going to blow off my collet chuck, because it got soaked. Okay. We're all good, guys. We're all good. Oh, that was... Okay. That's my 3/4, 9/16, so I don't need... Just doing a little bit of organizing real quick. I got collets all over the place at this point, so I gotta keep things in order. Otherwise I go nuts. This one goes right there. Okay. I'll be right back and we will finish up the cap. Looking forward to this cap. The cap's always, I don't know, they always kind of look the best. Like I said, they're the thinnest, it seems like, or biggest. I don't know, something about them. Something about the cap makes it cooler than even the body to me. Unless, like I said, unless you have like super transparent and you can see the ink well, I think that's kind of cool in the body. But the cap tends to just end up a little bit see-througher. All right, let's get this thing mounted up. It's a little lumpy. tighten it down just a little bit. Sometimes you can kind of play around with the, doesn't seem like it's doing a whole lot. Sometimes you can kind of change, you know, like how you've mounted it, or just kind of mess around with that mounting. And you can get it running more true. That ain't happening this time, but you can do that sometimes. All right, so again, I'm putting the 60-degree cone in there because I get a better grip with my live center, which also is at 60 degrees. Otherwise, am I the only one that's noticed this? You put the live center up and it just keeps like digging it out, and it's not holding it well. I feel like you got to keep tightening it up to have it actually hold right. Just don't use it around salt water. Why not? What does that do? You gotta explain these things, because I don't know. All right, can you guys see what's going on? I'm gonna kind of do that. All right, now again, I've got my dimensions that I like. And part of it has to do with how much of the cap is kind of overhanging the body and all that kind of stuff. So you might need to, if you haven't made any pens, you might have to kind of do a few different types of things, try putting them together and just see which one appeals to your eye. Alright, so I'm going to take a measurement here. Like I said, this just doesn't take that much to get to my dimensions. Okay, so I'm almost there already. On that end. This end needs to come down. And that might actually be good. Don't have to go super crazy. Maybe a little bit less. Let's see. We want this thing to be there. A little bit further. Actually, I think that's probably good. kind of just going by eye, but it looks pretty good to me right there. So now we're going to mark this guy. Where I want to cut it. And then we'll pull out our detailer. And so I was telling you about the micro and the regular detail. I actually like using this thing to get most of the parting done. And then when you get to the end though, it's nice to have the micro guy, because it just gets in there and just lops that thing off without any chatter or fuss. And then I can come in. Just kind of clean that up and we're good. And we can turn off the dust collector. All right, let's go get the lathe buddy, the savior of the day. It's a little soggy. It's a little soggy, but not where it counts. Okay. We got some fresh water. Got our little sandpapers. Let's see, what are you guys doing in the chat? I haven't had a chance to look. Let's see. Oh, leaving salt. Oh, that's even worse. Possibly. Then you need to pull out the SD40. But if you combine SD40 with WD40, then it turns into a bomb probably, so we don't want that either. Okay, so I want to do a good amount of sanding on this corner here. Really probably could have done some with the tool. That's okay. Gabby's here. What's up? Thanks. I'm venturing into the realm of transparency. And we're all finding out together that internal sanding sucks. I think we all knew that, but it wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad. I just have a tough time figuring out which way the sandpaper is supposed to go, and you know. So Gabby, when you do internal sanding, do you do it before you've cut the threads in the piece, or do you do it after you're kind of sort of done with all the milling operations? One thing I like to do is get this, like, the bottom of the cap, that little edge kind of rounded over. Again, it's just, you don't want it to be sharp. People picking up that cap. And this goes for anything, like any kind of woodworking project. Oh, going to DC, nice. I want to get out there one year. This time though, it's always the same weekend as SWAT, so that makes, oh no, not SWAT. Maybe SWAT. When is when is DC? No, that's coming up soon. Is it San Francisco that's in August? End of August? Yeah, internal sanding's kind of not so much awesome, but you know, I really like the see-through pen, you know, in the end. I just don't like the sanding part. Wish there was an easier way. Okay, I think I sanded that thing to death. Let's get this thing done with this way. Do a little bit of Okay, and then move on. Going up to the green. July 31st, okay. Oh, that's nice. First time non-California. That's cool. Yeah, I got a buddy that lives somewhere sort of close to DC. Within a few hours at least. So one year we're going to go visit them and then I don't know if I'm going to actually do the show, have a booth or anything, but just go and check it out. I'm not a huge booth person. There's so much work involved with shipping all the stuff out, and if you've never done it before, it's kind of like, definitely don't want to do one where you got to like ship it halfway across the country, or all the way across the country, I should say. Yeah, San Francisco pen show. I did the San Francisco a couple of years ago. That was super fun. It was super big, man. I think it was like Saturday morning or Saturday, like during the day. I had to leave. It was so crowded in there that you couldn't even walk, and I was like, no, I'll just wait until everybody leaves. Thanks. It was nuts, but I had a great time. Met some really great people. Learned a lot as well, and that was a big reason why I went. It was actually kind of like education about like fountain pens. I took a nib tuning class. I met and talked to a lot of people in the ink industry, I guess you would say. People that knew a lot about inks. I didn't really talk to anybody about paper, but I looked at all the different kind of papers and things. Looked at pens, of course. One thing that I was kind of curious was like, okay, so I was curious about the difference between like, Pilot and Visconti and all these, kind of things. Like looking at their pens and like looking at the custom, the custom made stuff. And just, is there like, what's the deal between the two? What's going on? And so that was kind of interesting to kind of get a chance to look at those two sides of the coin kind of thing. One thing I didn't even know about was the vintage pen stuff. So that was kind of crazy. 2 tables. Nice. 2022. Oh, you know more about the pens? Yeah. I didn't know much. Like I said, I got a pretty good primer, and I did like research beforehand, or what, I had been like looking into it, trying to like learn things. There's lots of resources. Just go to YouTube. You can find out whatever you want, pretty much. But it's one of those things where like seeing it, and I'd never been to a pen show either, so that was kind of interesting. Yeah, Pilot is like the softer nibs. I didn't try, so that's one thing I'm not a huge fan of, like trying things a lot. I didn't really try a bunch of different pens. I just wanted to kind of see what was going on a little bit. Cheaper than the table you got for California? Wow. Huh. $385. Wow. Whew. That's not too bad though. I mean, really, you know, sell a couple pens, you paid for that pretty much. I don't know. Could be worse, I guess. Yeah, I know. The nib is like kind of the most important part, but you know, people don't collect nibs; they collect pens. So, and that's why for me it was a little bit more like I don't really care how it writes. I'm not really. That's not what interests me. It was more about like what do the pens like look like, and I don't know, just the presentation of things and the feeling of it, you know. The guys at Narwhal were pretty cool. I met them. I didn't really like hobnob it with anybody at like Pilot or, you know, any of those types of things. But I did talk to the guys at Narwhal. They were pretty cool. And I really like their, I don't know, well, shoot, what is the name of the pen? The one that has like the porthole looking things. I bought one of those. It was cool. Pretty sure it was a piston fill too. That is something else that intrigues me. I like that. What do they call that one? Oh, partially restoring. Yeah, I'm not into that stuff. I don't like partially restoring anything. Yeah, calligraphy is really cool. That's pretty cool. No, not the metal ones. It's can't think of the name of it. It's just it's like one of their, I don't know. I think I have it right here. I can show you. I can't remember that. It's been a while. I just don't use fountain. I don't write, honestly, a lot of stuff. Kind of had to force myself to find ways to use pens. But I use for every order that comes in, I sign a little note in their packing slip. So other than that, I mean, except for like signing things, which you really don't want to use a fountain pen anyway. That type of ink for like signing checks and things, I don't think. But it's cool. I just picked up a couple pens. One that I'm pretty excited about. I picked up a Atelier Lusso. I really love his stuff. And then I picked up a Narwhal, and I picked up a Heinz pen. Because Jim taught me a lot, actually, for making pens. Okay, I think we're done. So again, I'm going to very carefully, I don't recommend or advise this, but very carefully, I'm just going to kind of get the majority of that off while it's spinning, turn it off, and then wipe. Okay. Now in this case, I probably could have gone, you know, there's no exposed threads on the outside, so I could have easily gone with magic juice to polish this thing up without it getting all gunked up. but I figured let's just continue the theme. So look at this. That thing's looking pretty sweet. Now again, the inside probably still has a little bit of water in it here and there, so you may see some, may look kind of blotchy, splotchy. But see what I mean? Like you can see through this a lot more than, and it may just because there's like more clear here, but it tends to be thinner, I find. Like you turn it down a little bit thinner and the cap can kind of, you can see more. So I'm gonna get the body out real quick and the section and all that stuff. We're gonna put it together and see what we can see. I don't have the section turned yet for anybody that's kind of just joining the fun, but I'm just curious to see all the, like what all parts can we see, you know, in the pen with the transparency parts. So let's put the nib in. Put a converter in as well. And we'll piece it together. I'll tell you what though, after sanding those threads on the inside of the body, man, that section just, oh, I guess I can't really, this doesn't really work. Okay, never mind. So let's just do this instead. Let's see how this thing lines up. Yeah, pretty good. Like I said, I didn't go about trying to get this thing like perfectly aligned, but that's a pretty nice looking pen, I think. And I think we're really going to be able to see the nib through this part. So let's get on the section and see what this thing actually looks like turned. Let's quit talking about it. Let's do it. Now again, I'm not sanding the inside. I really think I should have sanded that thing, the inside of the section before I put the nib threads on. So we're just going to not worry about that. We're just going to look the other way, like nothing even happened. And I think the last time even, I think I actually did sand the section and it just didn't really, wasn't that exciting anyway. I don't know. We'll just have to see what we get on this one. Okay, so let's move this thing. I'm going to nudge the camera real quick. Wipe up a few water drops here and there. Okay. Everybody's favorite part, the section. I don't find the section to be that bad, but I have cheats. I've got cheat codes and different area codes. So I like to put support on the back end of this thing. I think your best bet is to actually go, I do like the mounting because technically I could use this as a mandrel and it would, you know, that's fine. It would kind of save your you know, threads. But I like this better because it, for like the general mounting, I like having it go in and provide support on the inside. But I think the best thing to do, if you want to make sure that you don't blow these things up, use that mandrel as well as something that goes over the threads. And I think you're going to find, especially if you're prone to blowing up sections when you're turning them, try this out. You can make, this is just a piece of Alumilite. I just cut some threads on it and it was good to go, you know. I think I want to pull this out just a hair. I want to be able to get my tool in there without any problems. The problem is though, you don't want to just bring your tailstock up with your live center this way, because if you put any pressure on this thing, it's gonna crack it, right? So you don't want to do that either. You want to hold the threads together. Just make a little extra mandrel that goes on the outside, and then your force. And if I was even smarter, the reason I haven't done this is because there's actually threads on the inside of this too, but I would have like a 60-degree cone on the back end of this thing. So, but I've never blown up a section doing it this way. The one thing that I have done is I put the live center straight up onto those threads, and it cracked, it broke, because it was too much force spreading it basically out. So let's see here. Yeah, that one's a little bit more transparent. Oh, I was gonna go get that narwhal. Let's see here. From too much writing, yeah. Oh yeah, I guess you could just clean off the magic juice. That's true. I just didn't want to mess with it. Custom barrel holder. Oh, that's cool. Rick Harrell. I don't think so. Who is that? So here's my narwhal. It's got these little portholes. It's pretty cool. Really like this. It's also the other thing that I liked about this was it's ebonite. Like I can get all kinds of different alumilite stuff myself, you know, just a resin blank, but ebonite, that's kind of a different deal. So pretty excited about that one. Like I said, it's a piston filler. I forget the name of what the name of this is though. All right, so let's turn a section. Retired machinist. Oh, is he? Yeah, I think I might know who that is. Does he make like a? Yeah, he makes a few different things for lathes, like a sanding jig and a mandrel and like a drill bit that just is like one single drill, and then you got the threads and all that stuff or something. Perfect depth, I guess, maybe. Might be that guy. There we go. It's a little buzzy. And like the only way you can buy them is through the IAP messaging in. Nautilus, that's it. Yep. Yeah, I think I've heard of him. Little by little, nibbling away. All right. Let's see here. I have measurements on this as well. Generally, this thing, my mandrel kind of tells me where I'm supposed to be. I can't see anything. This one's definitely see-through. Actually, I went a little overboard there, guys, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. I think we're good. Okay, and then we're going to sand this guy up with the trusty lathe buddy. Saved the day already once today. Turn this thing off. God, it's so loud. Shush. All right, let's see here. Do a little bit of lengthwise sanding on this guy. The section goes pretty quick with the sanding usually. And then once again, I could definitely use the magic juice on this guy, which I think I'm gonna. Just kind of, I don't know, it feels like the magic juice is polishing better than the just sanding up the way that I'm doing it. Nice thing about these kind of pens, like once you've put together a kit pen, if you need to touch something up or you want to make a change on something, you got to dismantle the whole thing, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's also not particularly fun if you don't have to. I like with the Bespoke pens, if you want to touch something up, you just stick it back on the mandrel. Not a big deal. So I'm just going to go up to the blue. On the outside here. And then the other thing about my two mandrel system thing, the other issue is I don't like mounting it this way because you don't have access to the front. I don't care about the back of this thing as far as sanding goes, the threads and all that stuff. I don't need access to that because I'm not going to sand it. But I do need access to the front, which you can see. So I like actually having both of these mandrels anyway, because when I'm done with this, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to mount it on this thing, get rid of the metal one that goes internally, and then I can polish up the very front, edge. I can also kind of do a little bit of shaping, round it over a little bit if I want, all that stuff. So I kind of like having both of these guys at my disposal. All right, so that's good. I'm gonna dry this thing off a little bit. back that off. Set that aside for now. This time I won't drop my collet in a bucket of water. 3/4. All right, and now I got access to the front of this guy, which is great. And I really like it. Because I like to do a little bit of shaping, just rounding that over to make it, again, you know, all these things where, especially where people are definitely going to be holding it, you want that to be just silky smooth. Okay. A little bit more with this green. A little bit of gray. And we'll finish with a little bit of blue here. Okay, and then we're going to go to the magic juice to finish this guy up. Like I said, I kind of been, I feel like it'll get a little bit glossier if we go with magic juice. So I need to wipe this off. Get all the water off of there. Dry my hands off a little bit. Good enough. All right, and then we get our magic juice. So I tried the flip cap thing, and that did not work. That was not good. I think that they got the best caps on them, on the magic juices. All right, so number 1, right here. Ah, sweet. What are you having for lunch today? I know I need to get lunch too, actually. I haven't eaten since breakfast. You don't need much, that's for sure. Okay, step 1 is done. Let's move on. I opened up my new pack of magic juices, and they're so much better. I think my other ones were drying out a little bit. And these are just butter. 2 is done. Whoa. Oh yeah. That is shiny. Let's get the front here. And like I said, I like to get in here and get it out of the inside there. You're also polishing the inside, so you get a little bit clearer. Now you're going to be putting a nib in there, so I don't think that matters at all. But, you know, in between nib changes, you're still going to get a nice looking section. Okay, number 5. Five goes a long way. You don't really need that much 5. All right, last one. Do I feel the need to buff? No, that would not be a good idea. I mean, if there's like maybe a scratch or something somewhere that you wanted to get out and you had buffing wheels, maybe you could do that. But no, you should not need to buff if you're doing this. That's going that's going backwards basically. It's just a different type of abrasion, you know. If anything, I would buff and then I would just use the last couple, you know, 5 and 6 or something like that on the magic juice, because the number 6 especially, it leaves the surface like pristine, and I think it also has properties to reduce static as well as fingerprints. So, you know, really you're kind of going the wrong way if you buff afterwards, unless you need to spot, you know, take out some specific thing that just doesn't seem to be working with the polish. Because I buff too sometimes, but if I'm going to do magic juice, generally from like, you know, 1 to 6, I'm not going to do anything after that, because it's, I mean, I don't know, look at the results of this thing. Oh, I can't get this thing off. Oh, it's fused. Hold on a minute, I gotta go get the tools out. I think my spindle bearings kind of messed up on this thing because it gets hot. There we go. And when it gets hot, things don't want to come apart. Yeah, because I used to buff. That's all that I did. And then I tried magic juice and I was like, whoa. And it's just generally, especially for like the kit pens, I mean, it's just easier. It's quicker. You don't have to be changing things over and messing around. But the gloss that you get compared, so, and what I did was I would just use Tripoli and white diamond. But you get so much better gloss with the magic juice. Now you have to sand properly before you get there, you know. And frankly, so, you know, and this is just using the the papers, it's just dull to me. Like, it's just not as glossy. So I want, before we move on, what we're going to do is actually, we're going to redo, not redo, but we're going to do a little bit of magic juice on the end of the cap. We're going to use the number 5 and number 6 on it. So on this one, what I did was I went up all the way to white, the white paper with the, what's it called? Zona polishing papers. But we're going to give this just step 5 and step 6. And I don't know if you can, I'm going to take it off again. I'm going to kind of show you. I'm not sure if your eyes are going to be able to see through the camera how shiny, glossy this is. But it's just, it's okay. It's not wowing me, you know, in any way. So let's hit it with the 5 and 6 and see if we can get this thing to wow me a little bit more. Get my glasses back on here. So we got our number 5 there. Let's see what the 6 does. So I don't know if that one's any better. That looks about the same to me. Let's see after this number 6 though. See if it changes. Now, if it still looks kind of dull to me, then I didn't do a very good job sanding the lower grits. But a lot of times the 6 tends to, I don't know, it just brings out the shine in things. Let's see if it changes anything. So, so that's the thing. Like, if you're struggling, because like magic juice should get it polished extremely well. If it's not, then there's a problem at a lower grit somewhere. Yeah, that looks shinier to me. It just has a little bit more pop to it, reflection. And I probably could have got away with just doing number 6, honestly. It just adds a little bit to the finished look of it. So I'm going to pop in my sample, my little sample or tester nib in this guy. And I'm going to put the converter and all that kind of good stuff in there. Body looks kind of dull to me. In fact, so let's do, before we move on, let's do one more quick. Let's just see if what this, because this is kind of dull. I probably need to do a little bit more sanding, possibly even. But let's just try and hit this with the number 6. Oh, for good Lord. I need to get a dedicated tool over here so I don't have to keep going back and forth. See if that does anything. Just the number 6. Let's see if that does anything different to this. I'm going to swap this out. Let's see here. Let's keep all the parts together. Well, yeah, I guess I could have done half, but it's kind of hard to do half polishing. Give it the eye test instead. Leave my tailstock. Okay. All right, let's just try and add number 6 to this guy. See if that changes anything. To my eye or your eye. Now, to be honest, a lot of times I end up I buff a lot of the Bespoke pens, because I can generally get them pretty much like 0 scratches. I have a lot of years of buffing. It's more work though, and frankly it's not necessary for most things. I find that the Magic Juice does a perfectly good job, and what it does is it hides scratches actually a little bit. If something's not absolutely perfect and you've just buffed it, you got to keep buffing. But with Magic Juice, you know, oh yeah, it's definitely shinier. I don't have to mess around with it. Like it's good. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I mean it just adds a little bit of extra. It was definitely much more dull before. And I mean, really, I think part of the problem though is I think my sanding wasn't as good on the outside as it probably could have been. Let's see here. Threads are a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit. I got a little plastic jobby here. I'm just gonna kind of try and get some of this. What I should do is pop this in the sonic cleaner, but I'm gonna just try and clean some of the threads out. It was just a little sticky. And I'm also gonna do that on the inside of the cap as well, just to kind of clean things up a little bit. Just felt a little sticky. Now, if you find that your threads are just sticky after you've cleaned it and done everything, what you can do is put a little bit of polish on the threads and then work it back and forth, and that should help. It'll wear down just a little bit of that. Yeah, it's still just a little bit sticky, but man, that's looking pretty wicked. Got a fuzz on there. I don't want a fuzz. Let me get a better location so I can get this farther away. Is this zoomed out all the way? No. Okay. That's pretty awesome. I like that a lot. So you can see the nib in there a little bit. Trying to find the angle so you can kind of see the gold poking out. I put a little bit more stuff. Oh, there's a little window. Check that out. And then when you take this off, yeah, that definitely, I'm going to clean it first. One tip that I got from Jim Hines was to use, it's actually rubbing compound rather than polish. You could probably use step 1 from Magic Juice. That would probably do the job, but this rubbing compound, it's a little bit coarser. And I would actually maybe even say, if you've got probably a similar grit. So like, and that's the thing, you know, buffing or polishing or papers, or, you know, all we're doing is abrading stuff. It's all the same thing. So it just depends on what the grit levels, you know, or whatever are. Abrasive. Let's see here. What is this stuff called? Yorkshire grit. You could probably hit it with Yorkshire grit. That would probably be about the same as that rubbing compound. If you had the Triple E Ultra Shine, that's about the same. The number one is probably the safest. I think that's going to be a little higher grit. But you just put a little bit on your threads and literally just work it back and forth. And that polishing, it's going to take off some material, you know? But man, that nib is great. I love the gold right below the golden nib. The only thing is, like I said, you really can't see possibly if I put like a darker ink in, blue ink or something like that, maybe I could see the ink a little bit, but this is definitely darker than I thought it was. You get a little view right there. It's a little window, but you really don't see any of the ink part. That's like up here. But it is cool. You get a little bit of clear on the bottom. Look at the depth on that, where you can kind of see, you're like seeing across the blank and seeing the glitter. I love that. That's so cool. And then the end, what? Same thing on the top. Get a little bit of depth on there. This is pretty sweet. So we got 3 positions that this can close to. That one actually lines up really well. Right there. That almost looks like it was meant to be. Because you got these like swoops coming together. But let's try the next one. I mean, that looks fine too. I don't know if that was different or not. They all look good. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm doing it. Am I getting a different look? I don't know. They all look good, the lineup. So that's pretty cool. I didn't do anything to try and line the blank up. If I was to sell it, what's the going cost? It's all up to the seller. There is no going cost of pens. If I was like Chad Schimmel, I'm probably going to guarantee you I could sell it for more than Zach Higgins. And some of it has to do with quality, but a lot of it just has to do with marketing and knowing, you know, where to find the customer and sales. So there's really, you know, there's not a lot of going prices of things. Now, if you wanted a range, I mean, I would probably sell that for probably, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I have sold these types of pens for. It'd be over 100, you know, is probably what I would sell it for. But it just kind of depends, you know. If you really are going to try and make a business out of it, then you need to know how much it costs you, you know. Like you need to know how much time you put into it, how many, you know, how much in materials, all that kind of stuff. What does it generally cost to like keep the lights on kind of thing, you know? And you need to do a full thing and come up with a price. And realistically, it has little to do with what the market is. It depends on how much it costs you and how much profit you need to keep going. It's not just well, the market, you know, says it's $35 or whatever. That's, if you're going to try and price your own stuff, that's the way you need to do it. Put blinders on. Don't worry about what other people are doing. You know, run it through and find out how much you need to sell it for, kind of thing. So, yeah, it lines up really well on this thing. Like, it doesn't, like, no matter which way that I put it, it all looked good. And I feel like it didn't even change. Yeah, it's changing. It looks, there's little swirls like everywhere, and they all kind of line up and make it seem like it's meant to be. There was one that I really liked though. Yeah, they all look pretty good. But I am really pleased with the finish also. Like I said, I think I maybe could have done a little better job like through the grits, let's just say, of doing the polishing papers. Generally, I find that Magic Juice is better for me typically. than doing just polishing papers. It just kind of depends. I don't know why that is, because Chad can get things looking just totally glassy going through the papers only. And for some reason, I kind of feel like I get to the end and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I don't do it long enough for certain, grits, but that thing's pretty good. And I like the proportions and everything. I like the curvature that I put in there. I was kind of just winging that. I wasn't really like going for very specific anything. But it works pretty well. Now, one thing, it'd be cool to eventually get into doing clips and all that kind of stuff. I don't have time to learn that right now. Someday I will. And eventually someday I'd like to learn how to do roller balls. But I don't have time to mess with it right now. However, if you want a very simple way to fix the problem with doing a 3-piece pen and not doing anything about a roll stop is it rolls off desks and stuff. It's kind of a pain, but a very, very, very simple way, an easy way to fix the problem and add a roll stop to this thing without adding headache to your life is to just use like a pin, like a push pin type thing. And there's like tons of these things on Etsy, like custom ones. Amazon. You can even use like earrings, like stud earrings, and it makes things just super simple. So I've done things where they're like a round thing, and you got a post on the back. These are like pins, right? And you just hack the pin off, and then what you do is you drill a very tiny hole. I think a 1/16 inch drill bit will work. You could find a smaller drill bit. There are some out there, but typically 1/16 is like the smallest they come. And you just poke a hole in that thing, hit it with like a thick CA glue, and then just let it set, and there's almost no way. You don't want to grind off the post entirely. You want to have just like a very, very tiny little post that's going to go into that hole. Most nippers, most ways to cut these off are going to leave some little bit of it. And then you just glue it on there. And this is a little bit ridiculous. This would be a little bit of a pain to stick into a pen sleeve, something like this. But just like a straight up bar or like that round one, like there's all kinds of options of these like custom, whether it be like an earring or, whatever. You can get lots of different ones, and that adds just enough to where it's not going to roll off the desk every single time you put it down. And if you're going to be selling pens, I really think it's like a good thing to add. And like I said, for you don't need to learn a skill. Get a Dremel. Go get a Dremel. You probably have one already, and just you Dremel drill it. You could use just a regular drill, I guess, too. Sometimes it helps to have the little something to grip in your hand to drill something that fine, but you just pop a hole in there, add glue, stick the thing in, let it cure, and you're good to go. And it like adds customization. I mean, depending on where you find the thumbtacks or whatever it is. Like I said, literally go search thumbtack, custom thumbtack on Etsy, and it's crazy. Or look for studded earrings. There's so many different ones out there. They're pretty cheap. And you can find something super unique and specific a lot of times where like nobody would have thought of that, right? There's no way to customize a pen itself to cover that, but you can use that little, pin or whatever and literally you can have things made. There's pin making companies, people, like the lapel pin companies, and you can get them where they're like all colored and embossed and all that kind of stuff. You can have those made. A lot of people are doing that for the cap thing or the finial ring thing. So Chad did just a quick, he was just playing around and he made me eventually I'm going to call my pen company Tahoe Pen Company, but he just made this little doohickey that goes in the cap. He was just playing around with his engraver. All right, so you can just drill a hole in the cap of the pen and then glue that in. And I did that on my camo pen. So that's another easy, super stupid simple way of customizing your pen. right? Hopefully that'll. So that's pretty neat. Without having to do clips and all this stuff that's a little bit more complicated. But if you just add a roll stop, which is a drill hole and a glue, then you got like very customized pen going, you know? So there's simple ways to do that. You know, obviously if you want to take it to the next level, clips are awesome. And other things, I don't know. What other things can you do? I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but lots of ways to do that. So let's see, I'm gonna switch over here. Yeah, I think the glitter's popping more, that's true. John was asking what speed was I at. So I run my lathe between like somewhere between 1500 and 2000 when I'm doing magic juice. I would play with it. It's really dry here, and I find that magic juice tends to dry out really quick on the lathe, and so I think that the instructions recommend like 2000 or more, and that's just way too fast. Like it just dries out like immediately, and it's like I'm burnishing it because it's like melted onto the thing. So I run it at a speed where it's not burnishing it on like immediately onto the, you know, the whatever, the paper. I like to let it kind of not do that, like dry out so quick. So I run it a little bit lower than I think some people do. Maybe if you're in a more humid environment, it might be better to go a little higher. So I would kind of play with it, but I don't think there's like a exact speed that you need to go. Let's see. Pens equals so much monies. Yeah, see, Chad would sell it for 5 monies. I maybe would sell it for 4, just because I don't have the confidence to go 5 monies. Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me personally, I kind of actually like it's mostly opaque or like kind of opaque, you know, and then there's like, oh, there's like a little window here and there. I like that better, I think, than just like super transparent. And it will definitely allow you to get away with not sanding perfectly on the inside. So, I mean, frankly, I could maybe not sand the inside for most of this thing. And you could maybe even spot sand where the little windows are, and just kind of get in there and just do a little bit of work on that. I don't know. Oh, a little crystal. That'd be cool. Yeah. I like that. Where's Jake? Let's see, Emil said something. Emil said hi. That's what it was. I thought I saw him say something. How's it going, Emil? I have the skill for 5 monies. Not if you watch my stream and see me knock over the things and then put on the sanding paper backwards 5 times in a row. Nobody would pay me for anything. They'd be like, maybe 2 monies, maybe, because we feel sorry for you. So anyway, thanks for joining the fun today, guys. It was a long one, but you know, after you knock over the water and drop your stuff in there, and you know, I mean, things happen, and you just got to keep going. But I'm really happy with this pen, and I hope that, you know, it inspires you guys to get out there and try these bespoke pens. Try some transparent blanks as well. I needed to get a drink real quick. Hold on. Oh, throat's so dry. I was going to start coughing if I didn't do that. I'm hearing noises. Oh, I think my dad's back. I'm going to have to move my truck in 1 second. So anyway, hopefully it'll get you guys into the bespoke stuff. And like I said, the transparent blank too. I think that, you know, if you don't do that yet, if you're like a little timid, it's not that hard. You know, yeah, internal sanding kind of sucks. It's not fun, but external sanding is not fun either. So, and we still do it, you know, but you know, even in the windows, like I'm pretty confident that it's not bad. Like I think I did a good enough job with what I did. It's not that hard to get decent results when you're doing that internal stuff. So also remember a couple things. We got a couple more Gatling molds are in stock. I'm probably not going to really sell many of those anymore because I'm kind of moving away. I'm doing a little bit of my blanks with the Gatling, but I'm also switching to these other ones that are going to fit. The blanks will fit in the small flat rate boxes a little bit better. So I'm going with those, especially for the team colors. So either way, go with whatever you want to go with, but I do have a couple available if you want the Gatling. And then the Lions blanks will be coming soon. I switched that one over. I'm just waiting to test turn a couple things. And then next week, big announcement, no stream. I'm going to be out of town. Okay. So yeah, Michael said it. So anyway, that's all the news for you guys. Like I said, I appreciate you guys joining the fun, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend and evening. So I'll talk to you guys not next week, but the week after, and I hope you have a great week next week as well.